Hi, folks. I'm Mike Morales. You are watching and listening to Sipping Off the Cuff on Tequila Aficionado Media, all of our channels and networks, every platform you can think of, we're on. Here in Southern California, that gentleman out there is
Eric Zandona on the Florida Emerald Coast.
Eric has been our tour guide throughout Oaxaca in the last three videos, or whatever videos that we're in. Today, we have something so extremely rare that we had this sent to us in a size we don't normally allow, but we'll allow it in this case. It's called Comunidad. And Eric, you were giving me a lot of information on this. Why don't we fill people in on why we're holding up these sample bottles first of all?
Yeah, so Comunidad is a new project coming out of Oaxaca. And so this is a new brand from Ansley Cole, and he's partnering with a man named Hector Vasquez de Arabca, I think, something like that. He used to be with Los Danzantes.
Okay.
And basically what they're trying to do is that they're buying very small lots. So this batch was only 220 liters total in the entire world.
Yeah.
And the idea is to basically buy these small lots from these traditional producers and then sell them so they can funnel as much money back to the communities that produce them as possible, so that they can preserve their traditions, so that they don't have to commercialize and become bigger and produce more and sell more, that they can get a living, wage from their tradition and their practice as they have it, as it's been passed down. So that's one of the reasons why it's a special project, and there's so little of it for this one batch. We have 100 mils out of 220 liters. So this is, not a insubstantial portion of the total size.
Yeah. So that's why it's again, it's a rarity that we do this, but you might want to take a look at the website for craft distillers. Is the website, and they'll give you all this information. This is basically right off the website, and it's literally a project to sustain to maintain a way of life, to continue that.
Yeah.
Some people would argue that it's what's wrong with commercialization and getting bigger and improving the community, and some communities are okay the way they are. They don't,
yeah,
but they're making this lovely juice. And so what do we know about this? Because that's the name of the brand, the line Comunidad. So what is this made of, and what's our ABV on this one?
Yeah, so the ABV is at a higher point. It's 52.69%.
Woo! Yeah,
very, very specific. This falls into the what we would call mezcal ancestral.
Right.
It's made in a very traditional way, basically with no metal contact during the production. So the agaves are roasted in earthen pits. They're crushed by hand with wooden mallets in what they call a canoa, basically a wooden trough.
Yeah.
And then from there, it goes into a fermenter. And then from the fermenter, it goes into very small clay stills. So the clay stills can, they can be easily a couple hundred liters, but apparently the ones that this gentleman uses, they're only 35 liters. So not very big.
Wow.
So lots of work going into making this.
And this is what the community drinks. This is what they share with each other.
Yeah.
Literally, and I've heard this said before, that there are some distillers, some palenqueros, mezcaleros, that make batches just for their family, just for, not meant for sale. And I believe that this is one of those.
Yeah.
It wasn't meant for sale, just meant to share. It was meant for the community.
Yeah. And that's the thing, mezcal in these villages throughout Oaxaca and other parts of Mexico are largely, meant for the community that enjoys them, right? They weren't meant as commercial products. And so people would only go out when the agaves were ripe, harvest those, bring them back, make them for their, you know, particular time of year, particular, you know, festival, holiday, memorial, whatever. And so, you know, it's only as mezcals become more popular, more demand, people want it more often. You see commercialization. You have agave varieties like Espadín that respond well to cultivation. And so we have wonderful mezcals all year round, right? That we can enjoy. But this is sort of a snapshot of what that traditional process was going back 50 years, right? That people would go out into the hillsides, find the ripe agaves, harvest them, bring them back, and then make this spirit out of it.
So would this be similar to what we had last year in our Brands of Promise of the line, the Antiguo? Would that be kind of in the same ballpark?
Yeah, I think so. But also very, very similar to what we just had with the San Miguel Aniversario from Lipus. So same region, a different distiller. So the distiller for this is a man named Angel Cruz Robles. And so he's carrying on a tradition that he learned from his father, who's in his 80s.
Wow.
So I'm excited to try it.
Yeah, let's just pop this baby open. There's no cork, obviously. We're just gonna unscrew the top, and I'm gonna use a Glencairn this time and join Eric on his journey through Oaxaca. I'm just gonna pour a little bit. Look at the lingering bubbles on that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they're really sticking around.
Yep. Let me cap this off. The last thing you want to do, folks, is spill this because we have on camera, we spilled them. Anyway, let's see here. Now, I will say this is not as pristine looking as the other Olla de Barro, but that's supposed to be. It really isn't. I mean, it's not.
Right.
You know, I love the lingering bubbles. I love my legs and tears. They're forming nicely, very healthy. Wow. Actually, they're streaming pretty good too.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's got a really intense aroma. I think part of that's coming from the higher ABV. But I don't think I mentioned this. This is the Agave Americana. So it's a fairly large agave that grows in Oaxaca. So these were wild harvested.
Definitely not as bright as you would think an Espadín or even the Tobola that we just had. It's a little bit denser. More earthier, I think, is what I'm getting.
Yeah, more earth. There's almost a little bit of saltiness to it.
And you could definitely sense the higher alcohol.
Yeah.
It's coming through. Right? At the ABV that it's at, there's no way you can dumb it down. It's just going to come out.
Right. Yeah. So most likely, because the ABV is so specific, my guess is this is basically what it came off the still at. And my guess is they didn't add anything after.
It's probably not cut either. It's distilled to proof.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. There's a real nice freshness to it. There's a green, agave character that you get, but just really, really, really like vibrant aroma.
Yeah, it's not as dense as I thought it would be. It's a bit lighter than I was expecting from Agave Americana, because some of the other ones I've had, Agave Americana from India, it's completely different. It's just a whole other.
Right. So,
shall we dive in?
I think so.
Okay. Wow! Holy cow!
Wow.
Hello.
Yeah.
Woo!
That goes through a real ride on your tongue. So to me, it started really dry. This is really fascinating. It started really dry and almost a little bit woodsy. Then the finish like explodes into these like bright, fruit is not quite the right term, but it's this bright sweetness. I'm kind of having a difficulty putting my finger on.
There's like this pepper explosion, but it's not pepper.
Yeah.
It's like a hot spice. It's almost like how you would have like a high end, like a barrel strength bourbon or something, where it gets really hot and spicy.
Right.
Doesn't get super hot, but it's definitely there. I mean, you feel it in your tongue, and you feel it on your lip and gum, and you feel it everywhere.
Yeah. So to me, this is really interesting because it's like really intense right up front when you swallow, and then everything kind of lightens and brightens, and because it starts real intense. Like I said, there's like pine forest almost kind of thing. It's just, I don't know, something
like a botanical or kind of like a gin.
Yeah, just that a little bit dry character, but then once it kind of like evaporates off your tongue because it's high alcohol, it leaves behind this like bright fruit character that's really sweet and soft.
Yeah.
So it's a ride.
Yeah, it's this is really different. This isn't even like the other. It's not even anywhere near what we had with the Antigua. That's not here. This is a whole other style.
Yeah.
And wow, what a finish, man! That's a lingering finish, man. Wow. What do we know? But what did you mention about the price point? I think you said was it $120 a bottle or more?
The bottle.
Wow.
Considering the amount of work that goes into making this and the ABV, like that's a pretty, I would say, a reasonable price for this.
Of course. Ooh. Got kicked off. We got kicked off and we're back.
Yeah, we're back.
I don't know how this is going to play, but we'll find out. Maybe this is part 2 of Comunidad. Yeah.
Slate it.
I'd love to. I don't have the software. Do you? This is just part 2. Okay.
Yeah.
This is if you're just joining us, folks, and you're wondering what the hell's going on, we were sipping Comunidad, which is I guess we would consider this an ancestral.
Yes.
Mezcal.
Yeah.
It's ancestral at a much higher ABV. It's so small batch that this is what they could share with us.
Mm-hmm.
And literally what we're doing is we're translating. This is what the community that it comes from would be drinking with each other. It literally was not meant for sale. I believe that the Ainsley Cole, who is the importer, wanted this particular expression so that he could help the community maintain itself without having to super commercialize. And again, nothing wrong with commercialization, and it's helped a lot of communities. Del Maguey is that. It's been a really good business model for Del Maguey and for others. But communities just want to maintain their lifestyle, their way of life, and that's basically what Comunidad means, community. And I think that they've completely, with the flavor profile, the way you described it, and how it's reacting now, this is cool because it's almost like you're part of the community without having really ever lived there, or been able to visit. Yeah.
So I would say this is definitely like kind of on the outer edge of like, if you're new to mezcal, this is going to kind of just be a riddle, wrapped in a conundrum, wrapped in an enigma, right?
In a koan, in a koan, in a Japanese koan. served that way, wrapped.
Yeah. But if you know mezcal well and you're looking for something really interesting, really unusual, something that where your dollars are really going to kind of go far back to the community, then this is something I think we're supporting.
Yeah.
But it's definitely on the outer edge. If you're new to mezcal, it's going to be probably a little bit challenging to really kind of like dig into it.
Yeah, I would definitely not an entry gateway mezcal for sure. And I would say you should have a few brands and varietals under your belt before you decide to want to go here. But if you're ready, if you're up to the challenge, wow. And again, virtually no smoke. I mean, there's nothing there, and the alcohol, there's more alcohol I can sense. But even at the ABV that it's at, it's not going to burn your nose hairs or take your eyebrows off or anything like that. So,
right.
And there's nothing off-putting. There's no fusel oils. There's nothing. It doesn't smell like kerosene. It's actually quite elegant. But the flavor profile really, if you're not ready for it, plays a lot of tricks in your head because you're right. It goes in dry. I was expecting too some brininess because we could smell it a little bit.
Right.
But it's not briny. Not for me anyway.
No. Now you get that sense on the aroma, but yeah, it's fascinating. And this is again one of the things like, we just had, and you were saying this, I don't remember if it was off camera, but one of the wonderful things about mezcal is that you can taste all the different, decisions that go in it from the hand of the maker. And, one mezcal from Solo de Vega is nothing like another.
Yeah.
And that's one of the beauties of it.
Yeah. You could go from town to town to town to town. And you ask the question, where can I get the best mezcal? And I go, well, so-and-so over there makes some. And it's nothing, same plant, maybe different microclimate, different family, different recipes, and it's going to taste different. And it's like, now it's interesting because the finish is peppery.
Yeah.
And then it turns into this, I'm getting a savoriness now. It's putting my palate, it's very savory now, where maybe if we had more time, we would be doing this and go, oh, there's that brininess, there's that saltiness, that we detected in the aroma. Because every time, I love that finish though, that peppery at the rear from mid palate to the rear.
Yeah,
it's where because most tequilas and most mezcals, the pepperiness happens like at mid palate, almost at the beginning. This is like at the reverse. It's like it's like if you were turning this at a 180, and getting all the effects reversed. It's like, really?
Yeah. So right now, my glass is empty, but it's still full of aromatics, and I'm getting this real distinct sweetness that reminds me of Cafe de Olla. So it's basically like the coffee with the pancillo, sugar.
Yeah. So it's like a Cafe de Olla is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Really?
That there's this sweetness, this residual sweetness.
Well, after the pepperiness subsides on the palate and you've swallowed your sample, that's when it gets sweet.
Yeah.
I sense the sweetness at the rear of, from the middle to the rear of my tongue and on the sides. Wow.
Yeah. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah. Holy cow. For $120? If you want to be bamboozled for $120, that's cheap.
Yeah.
That's cheap. I have, now that you and I have had some experience together and even apart, we've had several mezcals now on sipping off the cuff. This is fun. This is really, it's like Eric said, it's a ride. And it's like going backwards on the roller coaster. It's It's not the forward, the highs and lows. It's back and forth. It's it's all backwards.
Yeah.
Wow. I've never had that happen before. It's like the agave spirits in general. I mean everything, raicias and sotols, and I mean we've had everything together. I think except we've had a raicilla. We had a couple of raicias too.
Yeah.
But they're all just what a palette, what a spectrum of experiences. Because after when you do this, you not only want to dissect, but then when you're in the moment of dissection is when the experience happens. If you don't take your time with these, and you miss out on the subtleties that aren't so subtle. I mean, this isn't meant to be subtle. This is meant to be boom, but it's different. It's not like agave punch in your face. It's the ride. You're right. Yeah. It's the ride. It's not so much the punch in your face.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I gotta hide this thing from myself and just go, nope, I'm not worthy. I mean, what do you do with this? Again, great for supporting the community. Now, let's say you're someone with experience. What would you do with this? Is this just an after dinner thing or celebratory? If you were in the community, what would you do with this? I mean, is this like an everyday sipper? I don't know.
I don't know that this would be, but yeah, this is definitely something I would want to share with other people, and so that's the thing. It's like, and obviously, like, you got to work up to it, right? This isn't, you share it with people who kind of know or experienced, right? I made the mistake years ago, different realm. There's a really fantastic rum from Jamaica that I love called Rum Fire. Super funky, really, it's high ABV. I love it because it's wild.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine was over. I was like, you got to try this. And he was just like, his head exploded. He was like, he had no frame of reference. His rum experience was like Bacardi. So he just like didn't mean it.
No.
And so like, so this is not something you just want to like, I can see people, being really excited about it.
There's like maybe 2 or 3 people I would share this with, and you're one of them. So, the other 2 don't live near me. So,
Right. So anyway, that's what I would say. But like, these things, I think this is one of the things that, people like who really love agave spirits is one of the special things that we get to enjoy about them. Right. And so that's really it. So enjoy it, right? Enjoy it on your own.
Yeah.
Enjoy it with other people, and just know that you're doing, your part. Even as a consumer, you can do your part to help preserve the communities that are making these amazing spirits.
And I gotta say, you would think that when you look at the pictures, excuse me a second, let me go pick this up.
Yeah.
God. Okay. I dropped my cell sheet. When you look at these people, and they're not, these people, this is their way of life. Okay. There's nothing to feel sad about, it's
right.
No, they don't want your pity, and they don't need it. They don't need these people. This is how they live. And to support people in a way of life, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. And for like $120 for this kind of experience,
right?
We pay more for concert tickets. For like, people pay. This marketing nowadays is more geared toward the experience. So that's why the Super Bowl tickets may be $5,000 a piece in the nosebleed section, at SoFi Stadium. But the experience of the halftime show, right?
Right.
And for an experience, a sensorial a sensorial experience that allowed that if you're aware enough, you can actually almost in absentia be a part of what their community is like.
Yeah.
A smidgen of what it would be like to live in that community and to share with your neighbors.
Yeah.
And for $120, there's your experience right there. That's cheap.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not even a quarter of what a Super Bowl ticket will cost you, or a World Series or All-Star game or whatever.
Right.
Or even jumping on an airplane, and skydiving. I mean, that's not cheap either, but
yeah. But I think you have a good point. And this is part of it, my family and I, we've moved around quite a bit. Like building community can be challenging, but that's one of the great things, right? Is like, this reminds us that like community can be a highly valuable thing. And so, sharing, being able to have something like this to share with others, bring people in to your circle and be like, this is something I really enjoy and passionate about. Taste this and like, let's talk about it and build that community in your own life. And it adds richness and value to your life.
See, there it is. That's our message, folks. We're done. That was beautiful. Thank you, Eric. That was well said. I don't think there's anything else need to be said, except it is a Brand of Promise nominee in its own separate little category. It's beautiful. If you can find it, and you have a few mezcals under your belt, and you want to try something that's going to challenge you, and one that you can share with your own, your own community, whatever that happens to be, your coven, your cronies, whatever, however you guys come together, your poker night, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I would say highly recommend Comunidad. This is it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And take your time with it, please. Again, I want to thank the folks, Ainsley Cole and the folks at Craft Distillers who made this happen. This is freaking beautiful. Oh my God. Yeah. That's our take on Comunidad. I'm Mike Morales here in my community here in Southern California. That gentleman out there is
Eric Zandona in Crespi, Florida.
You've been watching and listening to Sipping Off the Cuff on Tequila Aficionado Media, all of our channels and networks. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for, subscribing. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, give us a like. If you see us on Instagram, follow Eric. It's easy drinking. You can follow me, but why bother? Follow Tequila Aficionado. It's better. And whatever you do, tomar sabiamente.
Sip wisely.